You worked hard to get here. You're earning multiple six figures, but your bank account doesn't show it. You've built a career that people admire and a life that looks successful on paper. You're respected, but you're trapped. And most people never realize it until it's too late. Med school, law school, business school, 12-hour days, working weekends, years of sacrifice. You're earning more than most people could dream of. But be honest, does it feel like you've made it? Because here's what I see over and over again. Smart, high-achieving professionals with great jobs who are stuck. Not because they're doing anything wrong, not because they're not smart, but because their success is keeping them too busy from paying attention to what's really happening. Their bank account isn't growing like it should. Their time really isn't theirs. And their schedule still runs their life. They're on a treadmill. The income is good, but the savings are not where they should be. The bank account, it's not growing fast enough. In life, it's happening while they're stuck at work, missing weekends, missing family time, missing out. And the scariest part, many of them are too busy to even realize this is happening. If any of that hits close to home, stay with me, because this video isn't about real estate. It's about waking up to the fact that you can control your time, your income, and your future. And once you do, you'll look back and say what we all say. I wish I'd realized it sooner. But what actually wakes people up? And what's the first move you make once you see it? Let me show you what shifted everything for us and how it starts with just one question. A lot of you aren't burned out. You're just missing out on weekends with friends, on watching your kids grow up, on the peace that comes from knowing you're actually building something for your future. You're doing everything right. You work hard, you earn multiple six figures, you got the title, the training, the respect, but why does it still feel like you're barely getting ahead? I've been there. I worked as a doctor, I worked as a management consultant, I built startups. From the outside, it looked like I was thriving, but by the time I reached my 40s, I realized something surprising. I wasn't spending like crazy, but when I look back, even after years of a high-paying job, I didn't have as much to show for it as I thought I would. The money was going out almost as fast as it was coming in. Taxes took a huge chunk, lifestyle creep took another. All of that added up, and it made saving harder than it should have been. And here's what hit me hardest. My colleagues, smart, compassionate doctors, were still working the same schedules they had been for 25 years. Week on, week off, trading shifts with their spouses so someone could be home with the kids, which meant they barely saw each other. They were successful, but they weren't free. And they were missing out on the one thing money can't buy: time. They weren't just missing out on vacations, they were missing out on life. And I realized that was the path that I was on too. I realized I was building a resume, not a life. And that hit me harder than any paycheck ever could. And what finally broke that trance for me, it wasn't a book or a podcast. It was one overlooked detail that made me rethink everything I thought I knew about success. So I had to be honest with myself. If the goal is to build a life, not just a resume, then something's not adding up. And that's when the realization hit. And even now I can hear myself thinking, you've been so focused on earning, you haven't had the time to ask if you're actually getting ahead. In that moment of clarity, that's when change begins. Most people think the hardest part about financial freedom is learning how to invest. But in my experience, that's not true. The hardest part is realizing that something needs to change. But once you see the trap, once you realize you're running full speed ahead and still not getting ahead, that awareness shifts everything. And that's what happened to me. When my wife and I got together, I was already in my 40s. I'd spent decades in high-paying jobs, medicine, consulting, and I still didn't feel financially free. I remember thinking, if we want a different life, we're gonna have to do something different. And that was a turning point, because here's the thing. If you made it through med school, law school, if you built a business or climbed the ladder in your field, you already have everything you need to start building income outside of your job. You don't have to quit. You don't need a massive portfolio. You just need a shift in direction. So if you're watching this and something's clicking, if you're thinking, yeah, maybe I've been on autopilot a little too long, that's enough. Seriously. Just realizing you want something different, that's the first win. Realizing you want more, that's not a midlife crisis, that's a turning point. Once you've had that moment of clarity, once you realize you want something different, the next step is simple. Use what you earn more intentionally. The good news is that if you're a high-income earner, saving doesn't have to mean sacrificing everything. You don't need to live like a resident again. You just need to ask what actually matters to me and what doesn't. And that's what Leti and I did. We used to go to Starbucks 2 or 3 times a day. Eventually, we just brought an espresso machine. It saved us money, and we actually enjoyed learning how to make great coffee at home. We used to shop at Nordstrom's and get invited to those private VIP events. But at some point, we realized we didn't care about that anymore. We wanted something else. We wanted our time back. But once we got clear on what mattered, it was easy to cut out the things that didn't. But here's the most important piece. You can't save your way to freedom. Saving helps, but investing is what moves the needle and what gets you to financial freedom. And once we started saving intentionally, we're able to use that money to start building wealth quickly. Because you see, you don't need to cut out everything. Just stop spending on the life you don't want so you can build the one you do. When we started exploring how to invest, one thing stood out immediately: real estate. Why? Because it gave us two things that none of the other options could give us. The first is cash flow, and the second is tax savings. This was the path to buy back our time. For us, the biggest wake-up call was taxes. Most people don't realize it, but taxes are your single biggest expense. If you're making multiple six figures, you could be giving up 30%, and in some cases, up to 50% of your income to taxes and not even realize it. When we figured out how to reduce that legally, we were able to save more without cutting back on all the things we loved. That was the shift. We weren't just working to earn, we were building something that we could grow, even when we weren't trading time for money. And that's the real key. You don't need to spend all your time in real estate. You don't have to be a landlord and deal with leaky toilets. But you do need a plan. And real estate, when done right, can be one of the best ways to create income, reduce taxes, and give you real options. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. But if you're watching this and something's resonating, if you're thinking, I worked too hard to feel this stuck, then this is your moment to start. Step 1, awareness. Just realizing that income does not equal wealth. That's huge. Step 2, saving with intention. Cut what doesn't matter. Keep what does. Free up money you can put to work. And step 3, start investing. And it doesn't have to be real estate, but it does have to be something that builds wealth and buys back your time. And if you're curious about real estate, especially how it works for people like you with a packed schedule, that's exactly what we teach. So stick around, subscribe, drop a comment if this hits home, and in the next video, I'll show you how busy professionals are actually doing this one step at a time.